So I was told that the news is still a little too viscous, and it still needs to be distilled just a little bit more, just a little bit more clarification. Here we go. Doesn't matter. In the wider world, the video game company GameStop saw their share prices skyrocket because of a trading war between Wall Street hedge funds and regular average Joe traders. Don't worry, dog. He's still broke. On Thursday, the IMF revealed that the Bahamian government is discussing income tax reform. Is that it?
Because that ain't gonna happen, babe. It ain't gonna happen.
The Canadian news program, The Fifth Estate, released a scathing follow-up piece on Peter Nygaard this week, highlighting his close relationship with various Bahamian political leaders.
Hey, as long as Chester was in there.
The Carifta has once again been postponed until July due to COVID.
Why are you surprised?
Nurses have still not been paid by the government the promised COVID-19 stipend and overtime for working up to 16 hours a day during the height of the pandemic.
Why are you surprised?
And on Wednesday, the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition got into a heated debate.
Why is anybody surprised? This is not new. This is not news. That's like...
While we're talking about things that are not at all a shock, but still made the news this week, the emergency orders were extended. There's a sex joke in there somewhere. Before I begin this rant, let me just say that I totally think that COVID is a thing and it needs to be handled. People should still wear masks, and hand washing and social distancing should still be a thing. With that said, the emergency order is a different thing. The powers granted to the competent authority by the emergency powers means that if tomorrow he decided, I think that nobody should sell banana bread anymore because not only is it an abomination, but it is most likely the origin of the coronavirus. And you might say, that's silly. That would never happen. Are you forgetting that at the beginning of the pandemic, the sale and purchase of alcohol was illegal? Anything is possible. This measure exists because the assumption is that in an emergency, the person in charge would need to make quick decisions without being held back by petty things like the Constitution and human rights. But how long is an emergency? I mean, there's a reason why they have to keep renewing it. Because the Constitution writers clearly thought,
that's enough time, right? Like, they should have things figured out by then, right?
But apparently, the persons driving the country are not as smart as the country's founders had hoped they would be. Regardless, we are now several extensions in. So you say, they must be doing it because there is no other way to legislate the things needed to help slow the spread of COVID. I mean, you can't tell people what to wear when they're in a building, right? Except McDonald's can totally tell me that I can't come in their business without shoes on, and there is nothing I can do about it. And trust me, I have contacted Fred Smith on behalf of the Hardfoot Acklands People Association to launch a suit about this level of discrimination. But apparently, that's not a big enough problem. Am I supposed to believe that McDonald's has more power and authority than the Bahamian government? They don't even have wall plugs. All I'm saying is that I don't anticipate a temporary piece of ordinary legislation that limits the amount of persons inside of a building based on the size of a building would be that difficult to get past, especially since the F&M has a supermajority. The benefit of doing it this way is at least you would have to talk it over with multiple people and not decide on a Thursday evening before the holiday weekend to have a complete lockdown. Unless you are hell-bent on sending everybody to bed by 10 p.m., I feel like the rest of the COVID measures can totally just be a regular piece of legislation. Now, I will admit that some lawyers say that it is impossible to use ordinary legislation. Then, of course, some lawyers are called Bethel. On a completely unrelated topic, you know how in 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 2 to 7, it outlines Paul's parameters for the bishop that they should be blameless, husband of one wife, one that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity, not letting them attend a wedding with way too many people and having their raw, exposed faces out, body to body, cheek to cheek, no social distancing, even though the emergency orders that they are fighting so hard for expressly forbid it, which kind of makes you think that if people can so openly break the law, then the real issue is enforcement, not even legislation. And the fact that if you are rich or well-known or have a father that was or is in the government, the laws don't apply to you. Also, it makes it kind of seem like this isn't about protecting anyone, but some weird psychosexual obsession with power and having it absolutely. Plus, the connotation of the word emergency kind of implies that it's immediate. You can't be immediate for over a year. At that rate, it's no longer an emergency, it's a policy. For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how will he take care of God's people? I just thought it was an interesting scripture. Finally, this week, with election season gearing up, and you know it's gearing up, I've decided to offer a special service, an alternative to you wasting taxpayers' money on MPs. What I am suggesting is that you give me the money that you would ordinarily give to your MP. You see, for the low price of only $28,000 a year, I will do nothing. Wow, what a deal! But wait, there's more. For just an additional $66,000 more, you can get the Cabinet Minister package, where I will do absolutely nothing. Want more? Well, in this case, less. $86,000 more gets you the Prime Minister package, in which I will do absolutely. So that's how little I'm going to give you. I'm not even going to finish the sentence. And I know what you're saying, but Shin, we're getting nothing right now. How does this benefit us? By golly, you're right. So, for a limited time, I'm going to take 50% off of the $28,000, reducing your first initial payment to just $14,000. $14,000. Usually at prices that low, you only get a senator screaming at Fred Mitchell that restricting a person's constitutionally guaranteed right to freedom of movement is not a suspension of the person's constitutionally guaranteed right to freedom of movement. Legal loopholes, they're not an abuse of power. But you and I know that the government doesn't know how to write small checks. So what's going to happen with the other $14,000? I'm going to use it to hire a lawyer to help me work on a crazy plan. Walk with me a second. First, we get whatever constituency that I'm in incorporated. Now the roughly 5,000 registered voters in that area are also shareholders of that community. Then the constituency/company bids on every contract that the government puts out to tender. And we do everything. Are you building a road? We is build road. Building sidewalk? We is build sidewalk. You digging a hole? I still stuck in some holes that I dig for myself years back. Ask RBC. Not only does this mean that they don't have to come and beg me for a job, because if I remind you, I'm not doing anything. I will do nothing. Even the people that don't dig the hole will receive payments back in the form of dividends because they're shareholders. Wait, it's starting to make sense. It's weird. This must be how people join cults.
Why?
So, I'm doing a class at QC, teaching people how to video. So if you've ever been interested in making videos and understanding how they work, but don't know exactly where to start, feel free to click the link in the description and sign up. You can also contact them directly because they have payment options and stuff. But also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.